Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Do Nothing Project, our little low-tech experiment in grassroots community meditation hangout. Nice to see everybody. Colorado, Minneapolis, Indiana, Texas, Atlanta, Sudbury, North Carolina. Just scroll up here. Arizona, California. I love it. Australia. What time is it in Perth? It's great to see everybody. I love this. I look forward to it the whole weekend. Often thinking about on Sunday what to do that evening, and always just curious who's going to check in. Hey, Tristan. This is so much fun, and so if you've never been to Do Nothing Project, as always, let's say keep your expectations pretty low. Not a whole lot happens here. Mostly we just sit with our eyes closed. If you're tuning in and wondering what this is, most of what you'll see in the broadcast is just me trying not to drool. But I do give a bit of an intro around a particular emphasis and a technique that we're going to explore. And at the end, sometimes I'll talk about a particular thing or answer a question. But the whole idea here is to kind of make maximally accessible meditation, and to really do it with the spirit of just recognizing that this is such a simple, natural thing, and that the mind just wants to make everything so complicated, including meditation. And there are some complexities to it, but the emphasis here is really on trying to keep it on the simple side. Although I will absolutely make it complicated, and I'll probably do that today because that's my tendency. This is why the do nothing thing is medicine for me, that whole kind of philosophy and approach. So, all right. So lunchtime in Melbourne, Monday lunchtime. Okay. It's amazing. So today I thought that, pardon me, not a bit of a throat thing. I thought actually, I got some good feedback from the one I did last Sunday with Dan. I was down in Massachusetts and had Dan Doty on, and a lot of people really liked the practice that he guided. Sometimes we have guest teachers that come on. He guided a great practice that was all about sort of connecting, sending down a taproot, sort of using a lot of imagery and sending down, visualizing, sending down a kind of taproot into the earth and bringing in energy from there and becoming a tree. And a lot of people love this. I love those kinds of practices, and it got me thinking that it's worth doing a little check-in about the whole idea of customizing your practice, because from my perspective, all that stuff is legit. That part of what we're doing here is kind of figuring out, what works for us and what little adjustments can we make that can help us get more concentrated and more open and feel more settled. And visualizations are a whole part of meditation that I'll introduce a few more here as we go over the next few months, because they're terrific. And we've done a few in the past, but just to say more generally about this idea of customization, I guess I kind of think of this as the customization piece on two levels. I think of it in terms of with the practice in stillness, with the meditation itself and the ways we can customize that. And then I think about it in terms of how we bring the skills of meditation out into the world, making kind of activating and amplifying and turbo boosting the other practices that we do out in life. So I'll start with the sitting piece. There's lots of ways to divide up the pie when it comes to talking about categories of meditation, but a familiar one that a lot of people know is just these two baskets between more open awareness practice and a more focused awareness practice, focused attention practice. In an open awareness practice, we close our eyes or we have them half closed, and then it's just really about kind of being aware, and whatever happens, you're just sort of you're noticing it, and it kind of passes through the big sky of the mind. So thoughts pass through. Yeah, there's a thought. Oh, there's a feeling, or there's a sound, there's a sensation, but the main practice is just sitting in this open place. And that's a kind of classic do nothing thing. And some people absolutely love this. And I'll show you, I'll explain a bit how that actually does build up the core qualities that we train in meditation. But others prefer a more focused approach where they actually have a anchor, something just to kind of, orient them in their practice, and something they can kind of begin to devote their attention to. And that creates a particular kind of effect in practice where you, what they call the shamatha, you start to get very absorbed. It can be very pleasurable. You can get absorbed in the open awareness practice too, but maybe not quite to that degree that you do in a more pointed one. And the thing to know here is when it comes to focused attention, you can focus on anything. I mean, you can focus on sounds. You can focus on the feeling of the breath. You can focus on visualizations like image of being a tree, or a breathing in energy from the ground, or you can focus on an inner mantra where you're just repeating like, yeah, life is good. Life is good. You can focus on the feeling of moving. You can do that. You can have a kind of, as your object, this sensation of moving a little bit, doing this sort of like, this sort of like, well, right, kind of like grooving out to your meditation feeling, which is, some people just start doing that naturally. They call that sort of a kriya. It's like some kind of tension wants to start to unwind in the body. And so you can imagine how that would be the same when you're doing a moving meditation. You're doing these simple movements, and like a martial arts practice, and you're kind of paying attention to the feeling of the body moving and the energy. So all kinds of things there. And what's important to say is, like, people are like, well, what's the right one? It just depends on what you want to do. It's like, it depends on what kind of works for you. All of them build up the core skills. They all build up concentration. They all build up equanimity, clarity, and even that care quality we can bring to it too. The thing with the customization is some people love that idea that you can, hey, there's different options. I can kind of figure out what works for me. Other people are like, oh man, I actually don't want options. I don't want choices. Just tell me what to do. So that's why some teachers and traditions just give you one very simple technique, do that. For me, I think it's worth doing a little exploring at first, because then you can find something that clicks, but don't go too crazy with the exploring, within a practice, because then you're just jumping around sort of super ADD style. So that's sort of a little bit about customizing the practice here. And as I guide this, and I often do this, I'll offer some prompts around kind of finding what works for you. But certainly if the visualizations worked, if a mantra works, feel free to use that. There's no worries there. Interestingly, the open awareness practice also cultivates these qualities. The equanimity is obvious. You're just opening and allowing everything to be there. The clarity is you're staying in awareness. You're aware of what's happening. You may not be zooming in on the details, but there's that awareness piece that's there. The concentration piece kind of happens spontaneously. Some people find it doesn't make them very concentrated. They find it a bit distracting being an open awareness practice, but other people find it just sort of works itself. Things just sort of work themselves through, and you end up in a state where you're very open and kind of concentrated, just in a very wide bandwidth way. And then the other final piece, this is a lot here, but I guess I said this is a do nothing project, and here I'm giving you guys tons of information. The other thing about customizing practice is unbundling meditation, unbundling those skills, and beginning to deliberately apply them or find them in other areas of your life, other activities, other kinds of practices. This is how meditation kind of goes on the road. And this is a huge, huge, huge subject, a huge point. And I'm sort of right now involved with figuring all this stuff out, like kind of come up with a sort of meta practice lineage to orient people to, so they can find any activity in their life that they already like. They can kind of begin to approach it as a practice and deepen it as a practice. But I'll just say that the concentration is just anytime you're allowing yourself you're choosing what you want to pay attention to and getting really absorbed in it, that's the concentration getting built up. Anytime you're being aware, noticing what's happening, and in particular, being curious about the learning about within a practice, within the world, within your experience, that really is the clarity piece. The equanimity piece is kind of letting yourself really be there, be present with the thing you're doing, not fighting anything else that's going on around, but kind of like really opening to it. So even when you can walk in a way that's more smooth and available to the world and to your body. And then the care piece is just this finding a caring quality in the way you're paying attention, the way you're doing an activity, both for the activity itself and for people around you. And so that's a little bit about that. I'm seeing there's a lot of a few questions here. I'll kind of look at those, I think, after. And I think I'm just going to go straight into guiding this practice for you guys. let's see. Yeah, people are saying over here that they notice the rocking. It feels good for them. Yeah, exactly. And then someone else, Susan's making the point that it also depends on what you feel like. That the variety is a good thing to know that you can do. Some days you might feel like moving the body. Some days you might feel like working with the breath or just doing a do nothing practice. And so, or an open awareness practice. And so when you know that, you've got more tools in your tool belt. You can kind of fit the situation. Oh boy. Okay. That was lots of words. I'm tired. I'm going to meditate. 25 minutes. I got 8:12 as a time. So I'll go to about 8. Yeah, 8. This is comic, happens every time. 8:37. Let's do it. Okay. So as always, if you got your own go-to practice, you can slip right into that. My guidance is just an option. I like to start with a few deep breaths. Inhale, stretching up the spine. And then the exhale is sort of the downward motion. So just breathing at any tension. For me, I was all worked up explaining all that stuff, so I can feel that. So I just breathe it. As I breathe out here, it's like I imagine all that energy settling a bit, and I actually feel it settle. I soften my forehead and soften the cheeks and jaw, shoulders. So right at the beginning here, there's this skill, this muscle group of equanimity I talk a lot about, and that really just means being okay with whatever's going on in the present moment for you. So if there's sounds in your environment, there's feelings, thoughts, sensations, you're not going to get uptight about that. Just going to accept that they're there. It's part of reality, this moment. And you're going to notice just in that slight shift of like, oh yeah, okay. There's a way in which we kind of open up, or it almost feels like there's something almost mature that comes into the posture. And that's equanimity. You can notice that. So from here, you're welcome to stay in a sort of open awareness practice, or if you're a do nothing kind of thing where you're just sitting and being aware and enjoying your own being. And that's a great practice. Or you can choose something to pay attention to, going attention practice. And the attention, you don't want the attention to be tight. You want it to be loose, light. You're not, intensely gripping at something. Just a light paying attention maybe to the breath or point in the body or sounds. And if you want to add a little visual in that sort of works for you, like when I work with the breath, I often imagine this sort of waves coming in and out. But I often start out a practice by kind of imagining myself in this sort of in nature, this place I really like, feeling the trees around me. It just sort of, it kind of gets me going. Makes me feel settled. So you can work with the visualization. Or you can work with the mantra, repeating like, there's like classic ones. We can also just say, I am. The idea is if you're working with an object is to see how absorbed you can get into it, how into it you can get. And try this for a bit. Good. So just notice if your mind's wandered off into a daydream or a thought. You kind of just go, yeah, that happened. It'll pop out. Come back to your anchor, your object, or maybe just your open awareness. If you do have an object, there's an into it quality with focused attention, or converging all your attention onto this thing, getting really deciding to enjoy the thing you're paying attention to, finding a rhythm in it, sinking into it. We can do this even with blank spaces, like finding a quiet or a still spot right in the middle of our body and sort of zooming into that, or the quiet underneath sensations. You can go very deep with our concentration. So much of this practice is about just enjoying the simplicity of this thing we're doing, appreciating it. This opportunity to take a break, to make things simple for a while. Good kind of deliberateness too, in which we can really slow down. The breath may even start to slow down on its own. As we get more and more slow and still, we can start to notice subtler qualities in our experience. We can kind of sink in through sensations into the kind of soft, quiet parts underneath. For this, it helps to be really still. Okay, good. So now in the last couple minutes, nice to finish with a little nurture positive practice. I was thinking tonight we can just do a basic gratitude practice. Such a good thing to do at the end of the day. And just meaning anything you think of that you're grateful for. Maybe the way the sky looked this evening, or somebody in your life. Doesn't matter. Anything comes to mind, you just sort of say thank you. Kind of sink into that a little bit. And connect to the feeling of being grateful, whatever that feels like for you. Then you can just let maybe different faces come into the mind's eye, or different memories of the day. It can be small things too, just, textures, the look of the trees today, or some interaction you had with a kid, piece of music, anything. Appreciating all these little details and feeling thankful. Maybe it's this community, this practice. Thank you. Okay. It's a nice meditation. Grateful to this community. Grateful to you guys. Definitely sending it out to you. Grateful to Andrew, helps make this happen. To Lily. To Milan, my awesome assistant, who has been helping me for like a year and a half now. And to Tristan, who helps out. So thanks, everybody. And I was, of course, sending some good vibes to my wife sitting across there, my little dude Eden upstairs, who did not wake up.
He just woke up.
He just woke up. So gratefully held off. Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice practice. I've been working with this the past few weeks. There's been this very strong kind of quiet quality inside that's related to my son somehow. When I hang out with when I want to soothe him, I put my hands on him and relax him. I always get this image of this, like I think it's from the Jungle Book or something, like this cat carrying this big jungle cat carrying this little baby in his mouth. And it's like the velvety smoothness of the cat's coat. And so when I meditate on this velvety, smooth, dark, still quality, kind of bubbles up in my heart, and I just kind of go, vroom. It's fucking awesome. Anyway, you're hearing baby, you can go to it. I was going to say one thing. There's something special about sitting in stillness and meditating. You can unbundle meditation and you can apply the skills out there in the world. And there's so many ways to do that. And there's so many benefits to do that. And also you can just engage with other practices on their own terms. They have their own magic, but I do think that the skills are in there and any magic. But what's really special about a seated meditation and stillness is it's the simplest possible medium to not fool yourself. You can go for a walking meditation, be like, I'm doing a running meditation, I'm walking meditation, but you're just kind of cruising along and thinking about your stuff. And, in stillness, when you're just seated, it's like you can tell if you're getting concentrated. You can tell if you're being aware. I mean, sometimes you check out, but then you come back. You can kind of learn the signs of when you're equanimous. It's like you're building up these skills in a very simple medium. And also the thing about getting still, it teaches you the value of stillness, of that inner quiet. And when we're constantly busy, we override that, and we can override the skills. So there's a real value. I think that's one of the deep values. And of course, also being seated, you can get very, very, very deep. And there's a depth dimension. Yeah. All right, guys. Good to hang out with you. I think I was supposed to go and prepare a question or something. I looked for the questions that someone had sent in, but I forgot to do that. Well, okay, one question here from my man, Jeff McPee. What's the next step after finding equanimity? Equanimity is, that's one of the skills that I think it's the skill that's even more fundamental than any other skill in some ways, because it's the skill of just being available to the moment, of being present. And so you can always learn to be more like that. People think, oh, that I'm not present, now I'm present. But actually, the more you come back to being present and opening the present, the more you realize there's little layers that you haven't opened yet, that there's these little layers of contraction or resistance. So it's like layer by layer, let go, let go, let go, let go. And you become more and more open and available to life, more and more. And then the subtleties start to come in, and life can touch you. It can teach you. It's not like you're inside only your own neurotic ideas about things or only your own fixations about how things are. It's like you're actually available in this humble way to see what's really going on. And so the next step after equanimity is more equanimity and more equanimity and more equanimity. You just keep going down that road, and eventually you're not even meditating anymore. You're being meditated. That's the whole thing that happens in practice, where the practice it meets you halfway. You're doing all this stuff at the beginning, working to try to get somewhere or do something or be more equanimous. But at a certain point, you're so open to life that life can now come and take you where it wants to take you in a way. And like, I know that sounds weird, but it's like the process just starts doing you. Now you're kind of riding the mystery. This is like, I know this sounds like mystical mumble jumble, but it's just true. And it's fucking awesome, basically. Excuse my français. What do we got here? Okay. Yeah, exactly. Kent's like, you found equanimity? Where is it? Because it's the zero, right? Equanimity is nothing. That's the irony. It's like it's the quality that's like the anti-quality. It's like the negative image quality. It's absence. It's lack of interference. Anyway, guys, a lot of chatting for me. Too much. Very happy to be in this posse. I will be back next week. I'm thinking I might do something about that, going into that real still, quiet place. Maybe orient you guys towards that, because it's good in there. Everybody sleep well. If you're in Australia, work hard this afternoon. Have a beer. Okay. Bye, guys.